Let's start with some fact bombs. So over the next 2 years, 25% of available ad inventory will be eliminated. 25%. US audiences are served 18 minutes of ads per hour on linear, double that of Europe, while streaming apps are at 5 minutes, although that number is also trending up. For many, it's too much. 78% of US streaming subscribers believe they shouldn't even have to see ads if they are paying for the service, so that means 80+% of those are leaving the room or doing something else while they're on, which creates our figurative empty couch and the topic of this conversation. Now look, no one on this panel believes that the 30-second spot is going anywhere, but brands and their agencies must adapt to connect to audiences more authentically. In-scene advertising, or virtual product placement, as you may have heard it called, can't be avoided, skipped, or ignored, and it's already proven to help reach audiences on an authentic level. Should brands do it? Or as Jeff said earlier, why wouldn't they do it? And how are networks, content creators, and brands thinking about it? Well, unfortunately, I have a great team here to answer all these questions, so let me do some quick introductions. Jeremy Siegel down the end is SVP of Marketing Strategy and Operations at Paramount Advertising. He and his team focus on IP monetization, the creation of advertiser sponsorships, scalable ad innovation, in-show integrations, and shoppable solutions. Welcome, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Jeff Swerk is Senior VP Marketing at Group Black, a place culture calls home, and where brands are connected with diverse audiences across a multicultural generation. As well as owning marketing, Jeff oversees all of Group Black's content and experiential production. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you, thank you.
And Shirley, to my right, is EVP of Sales and Customer Experience at Ryff, where she engages daily with brands and agencies to educate them on in-scene advertising, leaning on her expertise gleaned from time at R&C PMK and Ben Labs. Welcome, Shirley. Now, we were to be joined by Patty Falch from Heineken, who generously sponsored this evening's beverages, but sadly she's not well and won't be making it, so we wish you very well, Patty, and thanks for the drinks. So before we dive in, I'd like to throw a couple of warm-ups out there. So let's start off with, what's your most memorable product placement? And it can be traditional, virtual, whatever you like.
Yeah, I'd say it's definitely Yellowstone Ram, obviously, right? I mean, who doesn't love that integration? Something that we're very proud of. Yeah, Yellowstone Ram.
Great. Jeff?
Sure, I'm a car guy, so I like to think that the best product placement integrations have always been the cars, whether they be the Aston Martin in the Bond movies to the Audis in the Avengers series. Cars not only become a great product placement, but they also seem to become a character within the show. My favorite is actually Knight Rider.
Oh,
Very nice.
Trans Am.
Very nice. I've been doing traditional product placement for a very, very long time, so have done a lot of the integrations. And for me, it's a couple of the favorites that I got to do as part of the team for the brands I represented, one being Lenovo, where I worked with Michael Bay and turned it into a transformer, which was kind of fun to do. And then again, having worked on Heineken for 16, 17 years, when we finally got James Bond to drink one instead of a martini, that was pretty amazing.
I love the laptop robot. Ray-Ban aviators and Top Gun, that's what I'm going to say. Biggest TV advertising challenge facing brands today? Jeff, why don't you start?
Sure, I would like to think that the biggest challenge facing brands right now is ad innovation. I know ad innovation is a hot topic and there's departments and people, but I believe that there's a dearth of ad innovation, and because of that, that is causing the ad fatigue that we all see. You know, there's the 30-second spots, there's what Amazon Prime is doing with prompts to your remote and everything, but I wouldn't necessarily call any of that true ad innovation. I think what Ryff is doing with, while they call it virtual product placement or in-scene advertising, I actually look at that as another ad unit itself, in a way that when you're in streaming platforms and there are frequency caps and you can only show your ads so many times, what is another connection point that a brand could have, and what better way than to actually authentically integrate it into the program? So I, again, don't think of it as product placement as much as I think of it as an ad unit, and that's an innovative way to look at this.
Very cool, thanks. Jeff, Jeremy?
Yeah, well, I think everybody understands, I think, the value of television as a branding medium. So I'd say one of the challenges is, I think we all understand as consumers the power of television for lower funnel metrics. But the measurement attribution right now is sort of lacking to sort of prove that out. So to me, that's a big opportunity. I think everybody knows it's happening, but we need the measurement attribution to sort of prove it to ourselves, even though we already know it.
Yeah, absolutely. Shirley?
I think talking to brands and agencies about finding the audience. and where they are, especially with the younger generations that aren't doing traditional content viewing. So that's why one of the reasons I'm excited to be here and how we can help them find their audiences.
Awesome. So let's dig into it. How many people actually in the room are familiar with virtual product placement, have read about it, seen anything about it? Okay, that's a pretty good number. So just to kind of set the table, Shirley, let's start with you. So how does Ryff present itself to brands, both from the smaller mid-market brands that are working with the tighter budgets, all the way to the household names that are likely to potentially already be doing traditional product placement as a part of their media mix?
Yeah, so basically anybody can be a client of ours, which is super exciting. But for the mid-tier market brands, really what we do is we help them find those audiences, to my point before, which is an effective route for them. And maybe it is that content that they couldn't afford because of cost of traditional product placement, the media that it takes to be around it. So it gives them the opportunity to be involved in the content and be a part of the storytelling, when you're working in content, it's always about storytelling as well in an authentic way. And for the big brands, it's about speed. We can turn on really fast, from insertion order to being in content, up and running and play out. That can happen in days. And I think that's an opportunity as well that's different than your traditional placement and or other things that you're doing with content, is the speed of which we can do, because we work with catalog content that is 5 minutes old or 30 years old as well. And then finally, I think with especially portfolio brands, even having worked with Heineken, there's a multitude of brands within that portfolio. And whether it's Green Bottle, that so much of the energy goes to, but a smaller brand that they can then use with VPP gives them an opportunity to have exposure in other ways that maybe they don't have the budgets that their larger brands might have.
Now, there's a thread I want to pull on there for a moment, which is catalog content. I think especially as we head into the holiday season, where legacy content is king. It's not Christmas till you've watched Die Hard, am I right? Anyone? Okay. So, Jeff, tell us a little bit about Group Black's announcement this week. Well, you've had lots of announcements, but tell us about Excellence and how you see in-scene advertising playing a role there, because I think a lot of your content is going to be catalog as well as original production.
Yes, thank you. So at Group Black, we are proud to announce that in partnership with NBC Universal, we've launched the Excellence Content Hub. It's live now, so if you have your Peacock app, don't watch it during this panel, but be sure to check us out when you have a free moment. We're the premier collection of diverse voices on Peacock, and what that means is that any of the diverse programming or Black-led programming that you will see in Peacock is now branded under the Excellence umbrella. We are in the process of creating originals, which will be launching in 2025. But it is a momentous moment for not only Group Black, but also for Peacock to really believe in that growth and opportunity lies within diverse markets. And since Andrew did say, we are going to have a lot of legacy content. You'll be able to see Bel Air, Martin, all of the your favorite housewives of any town. And within that, how do you monetize catalog content, right? One of the ways it can be is through virtual product placement. The opportunity to sell this unit into programming so that a brand can be in some of the most popular episodes or shows that have existed in a way that they never have before. How do you get into Good Times? Well, you can't, because the productions are done. But through virtual product placement, it allows us an opportunity to look at catalog content differently and find ways to monetize it and create new revenue streams.
Perfect segue. Thank you, Jeff. So I think content monetization is a really important part of this, and obviously top of mind for Paramount, Jeremy. So, Ryff's working closely with Paramount, today to explore virtual product placement, and I know both companies are motivated to make this happen. But we talked last week and today about some of the hurdles that you're overcoming with brands. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes, I think the challenge for us is, we've got obviously a huge catalog, 140,000 individual TV episodes. We're incredibly interested in finding new ways to monetize that content. I think the challenge for us is really the expectations that the brands have around virtual product placement. So when brands come to us, they go, we'd love to be in Young Sherwin, we'd love to be in Yellowstone. And we go, well, listen, those are really traditional product placement opportunities. So there's a disconnect right now between, I think, brands wanting to be in, let's call it first run content, versus us as a publisher really wanted to find ways to monetize long tail catalog content and trying to sort of bridge that gap between a brand expectation with our sort of needs.
Yeah. Now, I know one of the other pieces we talked about was the move to brands wanting to see more of a programmatic, more of an automated way of buying these ads too. Is that something that's coming up in conversation?
Yeah, listen, I think it's a huge challenge. I sort of equate it to like where digital was several years ago. Again, I'm sure a lot of people in this room remember taking screenshots of skyscrapers and sending them to a client to sort of prove that the ad ran. That's something, again, in the world of traditional product placement we're happy to do. In virtual product placement, I think we're looking for people, at least on our side, to monetize that long-form content or that long-tail content at scale. We're looking for someone to take a leap of faith, right? That you guys are going to do your job, the technology is going to do its job, and we're going to be able to monetize that programmatically at scale, ideally. So again, I think there's a little bit of a mentality shift that we'd love brands to engage in.
Yeah, I mean, look, a lot of this comes down, as we've all talked about as well, it comes down to awareness, which is why we're here. And while programmatic is certainly roadmap today, and our CEO, Steve Cox, on this stage about a couple hours ago talked about this. But Shirley, I know you're spending a lot of time with the sales team on this concept of integrated plans and really focusing on audiences and impressions, making this more of like a Google ad buy for TV for product placement versus just the content itself. So can you expand on that and how it's changing how brands buy in?
Yeah, I mean, to Jeremy's point, I think with traditional placement, people want this show, this thing, this time, et cetera. One of the things about VPP that we offer, and when we're putting our proposals together for our brand and agency clients, and let's use a holiday example. We have a holiday campaign. We want to run that. Great. Well, we're going to deliver to you a campaign that's an integrated mix. It might give you some social content, some premium content, some fast, some CTV, a little bit of everything that we have got, that the content owners that we work with, that give us the ability to integrate into those brands. It's less about the exact content and more about the audiences they're finding. Now, mind you, it will be the right culturally relevant content for them because we're very careful about that. We're not going to put the brand in the wrong place and in the wrong type of content. But again, delivering that integrated plan versus going, we're going to give you, Good Times, just an example. We're going to give you a bunch of things in which Good Times might be a part of, right? But we're going to deliver those audiences for you, which again will hopefully move away from that one-off mentality because we're delivering it at scale.
I imagine reaching audiences from Group Black's perspective, I mean, that's connecting audiences to multicultural communities is a key part of what Group Black does. Does it map to where you see in advertising working with the Group Black as well?
I do. As I mentioned earlier, I think it's a wonderful opportunity with anybody who has catalog content. But I also think contextual relevance and resonance are extremely important. And making sure that you can put the right product in the right moment at scale to deliver this. Again, I'm always going to reference it as an ad unit because I truly believe that at its most impactful moment, it is a new ad unit, is going to be a key driver in adoption of this technology, but also something that we will begin to see a lot more of in the marketing mix.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've talked so far about brands and the value that they can derive from in-scene advertising. I do want to get the concept, the perspective, I should say, of the content creators as well. Because are there any content creators in the room? There we go. We've got a couple.
I know some of you. Raise your hand. It's okay.
There's certainly plenty we've spoken to this week that might just not be here right now. But production costs are going up. Production timelines are coming down. Brand money is critical for creators to move as fast as the networks want them to. And the flexibility that in-scene ads provides can help them here. So, Jeff, let's start this one with you. How does Group Black look at in-scene ads as it relates to production costs? Because you had some really interesting ideas about how we could think about funding production with this.
Sure. Again, Group Black is a startup. Our network excellence is a startup in a sense. And we're always looking for new and innovative ways to fund production costs. I don't think we're the only ones that are looking at this. But if you have the ability to partner with someone like Ryff and in the content creation process, go out with the understanding of we could shoot this scene for X product, or we know there could be a moment in time, and then through the partnership with Ryff, they go out and they sell this in advance. We can then have money up front to create this content, as opposed to coming out of pocket at the top of the production. We're actually augmenting the cost by selling virtual product placement into the production. So for anybody that is looking at ways to fund content beyond creating new revenue streams, virtual product placement could be a great vehicle for that.
Can I add to that? I
Yeah,
think
please.
one of the things it does too is, again, having done traditional for so long, it extends the cycle that a brand can be involved in a piece of content. So it's wrapped. Oh, you missed it. It's not. It's all things are not doom and gloom, because once the show is actually done and edited, we can then do the placement at that point in time. So we're working with traditional placement agencies that they will bring on clients and go, it takes a long time for us to get actual results because of the timeline of development and production and everything else. So how can you help us bring results for our clients that way? And then again, they can still sell through the cycle before it's actually distributed or goes to theaters or wherever it's going to go. It extends that cycle for a production company to help monetize that content.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeremy, I'd love your thoughts on this too, because I know we talked, especially with the large volume of production companies that Paramount works with, we talked about abbreviated production timeframes and the benefits that could bring.
Yeah, no, listen, I thought this was super exciting, and to be really candid, like this sort of came out of our conversations. Typically, first let me say that that intro integrations are incredibly important to our content teams, right? It does offset production costs. Typically, as an ad sales team, we go out to market, we talk to the content teams to try to figure out what products they're looking for. But then to your point, everybody's point here, those timelines are really abbreviated. So the idea that we could go to market and say, hey, listen, this is our time frame for traditional product placement, and then you have another 30 days for a virtual product placement opportunity is something that I think is a win-win for everybody involved.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So anybody here with a brand with high sustainability goals? Interesting. That's three. That's three. So, because I think this is an important topic to touch on as well, especially as we compare traditional product placement to virtual. And I was going to talk to Patty from Heineken about this, because I know that plays a core part of their identity in terms of how they grow and how they brew and how they package. Shirley, in your prior life, I know that you're on the agency side for Heineken. So how do you think in-scene advertising can contribute to that? Because I imagine it's no physical product required, no transportation, no personnel. What does that mean?
I mean, it's a logistical chess game in and of itself, more or less a production, more or less when you're coordinating product to the set, vehicles, whatever it might be, right? Vehicles, a watch, a beer brand, whatever it might be. That has a lot of places that can go wrong. Number one. Number two, it's expensive. Mm-hmm. And number three, it's waste. So if you're shipping, thousands of cases of something around the globe to wherever they're shooting, that's budget that comes out of your budget. I mean, the beer's not free, right? The computers aren't free, the cars aren't free. So that is, and brands have dedicated budgets for that if they're going to do it. But at some point in time, you run out of budget. And there's so many more things you might want to have done that you can't afford to do. So it's affordability. It's a savings thing, but it's also really good because, again, you're not all the things that you're not from a sustainable perspective, right? Glass, whatever it might be, it really helps that as well. And again, just the energy that can go into that alone is truly a game changer for brands, I believe.
Yeah. Jeff, Jeremy, any take on the sustainability angle?
Yeah, again, we don't think a lot about, but again, I think about it more from a production timeline perspective. Again, the idea that, you're right, it's really hard to, when you start shipping products everywhere, and the idea that we could say, hey, listen, we don't have the time, but let's do something virtual is an incredible opportunity.
Yeah.
Especially even when, right at the very last minute, you can also end up on the editing room floor.
That can happen. It happens.
So the topic of the stage, or at least the stage we're on, is AI. So I wanted to make sure we didn't sort of depart here without having a short conversation on that. It plays a fundamental role in AI in Ryff's platform. It's how we initially find the virtual placement opportunities. but it's also how we will determine narrative and context and themes and characters so that we can help brands connect to the exact stories and the moments that matter for their campaign goals. So as AI becomes more integrated into advertising, obviously it's a central part of all the conversations that we're having right now. What ethical considerations does the panel think that companies should keep in mind when using this? And just, we have an AI ethics council that we, oops, don't touch the mic, that we are chairing, and we're working with a number of companies in this space to have these discussions because how AI is used in advertising is extremely important. So I'd love the panel's take on how they think it's going to play out in their organizations. Jeff, you want to start? Sorry, I was looking at Jeremy and I said Jeff. Jeremy, do you want to start?
Yeah, I'm not. Again, when I think about AI, just to shift it a little bit, again, I think more about, we're in a conversation right now with a large advertiser that has a lot of different products, and we're talking about potentially using AI to essentially put more relevant products in specific scenes. So to me, like that's really powerful, right? Like right now, we, again, even as the conversation's been going on, we started with traditional product placement. You're cherry picking a show, you're cherry picking a product. To virtual product placement, okay, you're cherry picking a product, but the content is a little bit more nebulous. To maybe an AI-driven world where you've got it could be 100 products, it could be 1,000 products, and now the product that's most relevant to that consumer's inserted into the show that's most relevant to them. That's really exciting, and again, things that those are conversations that we're actively having today.
Okay. Jeff?
Sure, I would say that at its core, AI is inherently biased. So the inputs that go into an AI model are going to be important for contextual relevance and the delivery of any message. At Group Black, we've partnered with MasterCard, and we're building the first unbiased chatbot. And Group Black, through our network of over 4,000 partners, is providing all of the diverse data sets. So from a Group Black perspective, and I look at production and the way that we hope the Ryff model would work is that the AI model is not biased, and when we're making diverse programming, that the output of all of that is taken into consideration.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I think what's great about how our AI works, and when we're working with content, it helps us with, to your point, the right type of content, but also guardrails for brands. Knowing that there is a location in that scene that this brand, this Heineken, should not be in with kids or in a car or other places like that. It really helps us identify that quickly and again at scale, and that's extremely important, obviously, for any brand or content creator or owner, that that's authentic and that it's not, again, you're not putting a luxury item in a scene that shouldn't be in a scene that's there, or the reverse, again, something else. So that is what I love about how our AI, whoops, again, don't touch the mic, how our AI works for us and helping us find those contextual moments that are right for the brand at scale.
Yeah, and that's creating very interesting vertical markets here as well. We work with a company called Anuvu who run in-flight entertainment systems, and they have content that is great for a San Francisco to London leg, for example, but wouldn't be appropriate on London to Dubai, for example. So we're working with them and using our AI to help analyze this content and find things that might be concerning, certain religious references or excess violence and so on, so that we can make sure that content is appropriately placed for that particular journey. So there's a lot of really interesting vertical applications for AI as well. So we're getting last few minutes here. Everyone's very quiet in the questions. I'm happy to, if anyone has a question in the audience too, feel free to stick your hand up and we'll just take it old school. Hey, go ahead. Hey, Jess.
I was just wondering, do you have the ability to target a specific ad, like you were just saying, you don't want to show a Heineken ad to children? Do you have the ability to segment target maybe different kinds of virtual ad products? Like, let's just say on the table you could have M&Ms, or Coca-Cola, but for an adult who's watching the ad that's 21 plus, you could show Heineken. Do you have that ability, or am I like
Someday, soon.
Okay.
If you would have heard our CEO talking a little bit earlier, talking about the types of things that we'll be able to do, that's in our roadmap of, again, you can be watching something in the living room and your sister, father, mother, brother, husband could be watching the same thing in another room, and they know how to serve that right product to you. So that eventually will be where we go. Did I get that right? I got it right. I got a thumbs up. Okay.
All right. Go ahead.
You guys are talking. Am I on?
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys are talking a lot about TV, but billboards, sports stadiums, are you anywhere else that you might be able to be integrated in a really unique way?
So what we are is we have content that we can do. It's a good question. We have, within the content that we have, we not only can do place the bottle on a table, put a bag here, whatever it might be. We also have the opportunity to do out of home in scene as well. So that is something that we do. Or we can take a scene that has a stadium in it. Think Ted Lasso, right? When they're playing, and we can go ahead and we can change something within that scene that shows sports. We're not able to do live sports yet, but we can do sports things like that. And again, the out of home place for us is another interesting way to work with brands that don't have a physical product. So think insurance company, think healthcare, think a dating app, right? You don't have a physical product, but you actually are a brand as well. So that allows us to do stuff like that, that we can work with brands of all kinds in those sorts of scenarios. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think something else, I think I was talking to you, Jeremy, about it, is this concept of connecting the in-scene placements with then the 30-second ad spot as well, and that being a really powerful potential future direction. So once we're in this programmatic path and we have some idea of what the ad blocks are going to be, we can then place those products into the content prior to that ad block coming up. You could even then think more forwards and make there's now a QR code on that ad, and it now becomes a shoppable thing. So now you're seeing the brand in the show, you're seeing the ad, you click on the QR, and now you're kind of completing that circle. So there's a ton of really interesting progress we're making on that front as well. Question there?
I see a question.
And there's one back there too, but we'll do this one first.
Oh, sorry. I can't see.
This question is actually for Jeremy. As you're having this panel discussion, and obviously Paramount has other networks and parent companies, how do you see virtual product placement kind of cross-promotion of different shows that can play out? So for example, if you're promoting Yellowstone, then you can virtually product place either swag, product, billboards into other, Showtime, BET to promote those shows.
As if like you're watching Yellowstone and someone walks by a billboard and it's for another Paramount show?
If I'm on CBS,
Yeah.
and you want to cross-promote potentially a Paramount show or product of that show, do you see that as an opportunity or not really?
To be honest with you, probably not, and only because, within our organization, we have like promo time, you know what I'm saying? So like, I think the idea of us, to be really candid, sort of like working with a vendor, to do something that we can do in-house is probably not realistic for us.
I think those in the back.
Right.
Yeah, lady in the green jacket.
Hi,
Oh,
I
is
have
it
a
blue?
question. Do you do any of this work with large format, IMAX, giant screen type film products? I mean, what is the ability? I'm particularly asking because of 7 projects coming up in the environmental and sustainability space. So where and how has any of this work been integrated in that way?
So we work with the content creators, right, and owners. And so whoever gives us the rights to work with that content is who we work with. So if they're going to distribute it to IMAX, and that's where they're going to go, and we have the opportunity to work with that content before it goes there, we can do that. Or after. Just because you work with a Paramount Studios show doesn't mean it's necessarily going to play out. There are a lot of play out partners around the world, right? Especially with catalog titles as well. We also do a lot of film that haven't maybe sold yet, or they're in the process of being sold, but they want to try to monetize their films before they actually go wide. We've got a lot of that in our stable of content as well. So it really depends on who has the rights to that content and where they're going to go with it.
Okay, we have 5 seconds, but we're the last panel of the day, so I'm going to say.
One more over here.
I'm going to give us. Do we have a couple more minutes?
We're over here. Can we?
Yes.
Can we sneak one in?
Let's say yes.
Yeah.
Come on, we gave everybody beer.
We do.
Sorry, I'm keeping y'all a little long. Sorry about that. So I'm an investor in some tech, some stuff like this, including a digital out-of-home platform, and I'm also an investor in some film productions, not the $20 million, usually $5 million under for us. However, I did notice the in-scene advertising in sports, which I hate it, by the way, but I think it's a very valuable asset in sports. Now we're talking about film productions. This is probably something for you, Jeff, where a director or a star actor may feel uncomfortable with interruption of attention to, let's say, an important dialogue piece in a feature film or something like that. So with this technology, is there something in place that is kind of dictating when it actually pops up, or have you guys thought about some possible mitigation of that, which could cause a little bit of, when you're dealing with smaller budget films, you're going to take the money, but bigger budgets, it's a little different. So did I explain that clearly?
Yeah.
I believe I understand your question, and I think that's really comes down to contextual relevance, making sure that this in-scene product placement shows up at the right time and at the right moment. I don't think that you would want to force a box of Cheerios on the table where it became sort of the center of the scene. I think this is supposed to feel really authentic, as if it was happening in real life. So to make sure that you identify sort of the truly contextually relevant moments, maybe that if it's catalog content, that is tied to a line in a script, or something that you're hoping to create, knowing that the director and everybody is aligned that this could get put in post. So I think the long story short is it's all about contextual relevance in the moment.
Yeah, let me just add to that too. We are asking content creators if we can draw on their art, right? And that's not something we take lightly as a company. We always work very closely with that content creator. We have extensive guardrails in place to make sure that a brand is never going to appear in a place it shouldn't, and we are not going to touch clothing. We're not going to put things in people's hands. We're not going to change what they're saying or change their faces. That's not our business, right? Our business is to help content creators monetize their content, to connect them to brands in an authentic way. And if it's not authentic, we don't touch it. But it's a great question because it's something that I know a lot of content creators and brands are concerned with, because it feels like it's somewhat out of their control, and actually it's very much in their control. Okay? Go on, we'll take one more. They might kick me off, but keep going.
Okay, so my question is, how do you guys plan to keep the integrity of a show? Like, I'm thinking HBO, Game of Thrones, our Starbucks cup kind of show up. Are there going to be guardrails there that where you kind of put into place, like, well, Starbucks was only around from this date to this date? So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can I?
It's all part of the same system.
Yeah, well, just one thing about that episode specifically, right? They removed the Starbucks cup. So which one has the integrity? Where it was in real life, or where they removed it?
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of it. Like there's content that if brands don't belong in the content, we wouldn't put the brands in the content, right? So definitely, because consumers, again, we tied with this whole conversation earlier about, do people really notice the integrations, right? Like that's about how our measurement is. And I think consumers are smart. You guys know when you see a brand, and you know when it's wrong. Consumers are smart. You know when you see something that's like, that's off, I don't get it, that, or that doesn't fit that character, or whatever it might be. So that's extremely important for not only the content creator, for the brand. So we would never, that's not the intent at all.
All right, I think now we definitely have to call it. Thank you so much to my panel. Thank you all. Thank you, Heineken, for the drinks. And yeah, we'll be around. So any more questions, please come grab us.
Thank you.